Welcome. My name is Mark Anthony Dubose Jr. and I was born July 4th, 1986. I want to say thank you for tuning in. Today, I want to talk about some trauma and addictions a little bit more. Because I think that once we have a very good understanding of trauma, we have a better understanding of addictions, we have a better understanding of actually getting some real world help. Real world results is what I really want to be able to give to people. Not this fake, it looks good and shiny over here in this moment, and shiny over there in that moment, but real world, I can depend and rely upon this in all my day to day. You're going to have a little slip up here and there, but for the most part, things are going to be pretty comfortable for you. And a lot that I see is we like to run away from what the actual problems are. We like to hide the actual issues. We like to just shove it in the closet, lock it up, and act like it's not there. And it's still there. Because one day, you're going to have to open that closet up, and it's going to come right and be a rush, and it's going to come right back and get you again. And one day, something's going to happen that it's going to be right there. It's going to smack you in the face, and you have to be able to deal with it. And it's the concept that a lot of people like to say is, time heals things. It can maybe, but in reality, what can happen is time can actually make it worse because you can mask it, run away from it. But then when the masks and all that stuff and everything you're trying to use to hide it away doesn't work anymore and it comes back, now you're going to be in a way more sticky situation that you're going to need something more. And you're going to run to that point that you hit the ceiling, man. There's no more. And what do you do then? Because now it's there. Now you have nothing to be able to just have this excuse of, I could do this to make myself feel better. And that's what I just see and realize what goes on with these dogs. Is we see that there's an issue going on, and we're trying everything we can to make the dog feel better in the moment and not worrying about what it's going to feel like and be like years from now, time from now, even the next day, even tomorrow. We're worried about right here, right this moment. You see dog get nervous. This is the thing that I'm going to say. I don't know it all. I'm not the dog training, dog knowing master, the best of the best. I'm none of this. I'm a simple human being that is just seeing some things and realizing some stuff that just don't add up. And especially for me, coming from a background of doing too much research on trauma, mainly trying to help myself and get myself to be able to get in a better place, I've realized a lot of this just comes together. Because what starts to happen is we see the dog get nervous and we think I want to get it to get out of that. For me, as much as I can say that I'm not a positive only trainer, I understand the need for stress and I understand the need to work through the stress. So that's the part of me that goes a little bit against what say a lot of treat-based and treat trainers do. I'm not going to see the dog get stressed and try to escape the dog, make the dog escape the stress by giving it a treat. The treat makes the dog feel good. It's going to feel good in that moment. That moment is what I want to say. It's going to feel good in that moment. But it doesn't actually make them feel good, say, forever. In that moment, they get a dose of, oh, this is awesome. And they can maybe relax. But then what happens is I'm just going to use the word trigger. The trigger is still there. It's still there. So we didn't actually deal with it. We just, in that moment, got them to feel good for a second. Same thing as drugs, alcohol, anything. You feel good for a moment. And you're able to just run away from it and just whew, wow, thank you. But then as soon as that whew, thank you, gets over with, you're right back at it because it's still there and you never learn the skills of how to deal with that stress. And that's why for me, I'm going to straight say that I'm pretty much totally against treats for a dog that is in fear. Because I'm going to say in fear when it's reactive and doing what it's doing. If the dog is scared to go up a ramp, throw a treat on the ramp to get the dog up the ramp. That stuff works. It works. Your dog is scared to go in the house, throw some treats in the house, the dog goes in the house, you're going to be okay. But as far as taking the dog into the environment, this is a whole different situation here. Because what starts to happen is you're trying to give that dog that treat because at first it's slow doses that you need. And it's not even that high of value of a treat at first. In reality, you could just use a dog's kibble. You give the dog its food, and it's oh, I feel pretty good. But we're making the dog escape the reality, real life. We're making it escape it and go into this fantasy world. This fantasy world of you stay with me, and you're just going to get treat. All you're going to do is just get treats, and all you got to do is stay with me, and your life is going to be good. But that's not real world. That's a fake fantasy world. I get it. We as humans, we want to try to do all we can to make sure that nothing is stressed or anxious or nervous around us. We want to do it. But the main thing is we got to do it the correct way. Understanding that the dog needs to deal with it on its own. That we can't make them run away from it. We can move them away to give them some distance so that they can see it there and just realize what's going on, but they have to go through all of that on their own. No touch, no praise, no eyeballing them, no nothing, no treats, no toys. Just allow them to see it and they will get through it. And this is the thing that I think a lot of us are struggling with because we want it, man. And this is going to take time. This is going to take time. And this is where we think that we can get it faster and or where dog training kicks in because we think we can get it faster and we're just coming and giving these dogs treat after treat after treat after treat. It works in the moment. But then weeks, months, years later, what's happening in that moment? That's what I think most of us should care more about than how it looks right this second. It's the long-term effects that we need to pay more attention to. The long-term effects, the results they're just not there, people. And someone and anyone, I mean, that's why all these balance trainers and all these force trainers and all this, they challenge the heck out of a treat-based, treat-only trainer, because you don't get no real, reliable, real-world results. It is what it is. And you can get something that can be maybe tolerable, but for me, for the next 15 years of this dog's life, keep a treat pouch on me that every time my dog starts to get into this, I don't know what to do, I got to keep like feeding them around in it. You're living in your own life in a reactive mode. And you're wondering why the reactivity out of the dog isn't getting any better. You see trigger and you're like, oh, and then the dog's like, oh, and you're just going back and forth and back and forth. And every single time that you're just like, oh my goodness, I got to pet you, I got to treat you, I got to treat you. Every single time that you keep doing that, you're running into that situation that you're just making it worse and worse and worse. It's not getting better. Because that's what I see on not anyone's, but most all people's that I see when they're working with like fear reactive dogs. The session one, it starts off with, oh, maybe their dog doesn't even take treats because it's a little bit too much. But session after sessions, what you start to see is more treats, man, not less. Day one, you didn't even have any. At least the dog was freaking out. Is the best case scenario. Just let the dog freak out. It'll get past it. It'll get over it. But we don't want to see that. That's just too much. That's where, for me, I'm going to go a little. I'm cool with the dog going through a little bit of stress. I'm not going to purposely put the dog in the middle of a dog park where one dog is harder than 100 dogs. I'm not going to purposely because I used to do this. I mean, I've done it with my Johnny because he's different. He's not barking at the dogs. But I could put him in a downstay somewhere and then I'll just bring the other dog out. And the dog is just barking, barking, barking. 10, 15 minutes of that, the dog's like, oh, it's okay. And they just deal with that stress and they get past it. But what we do is we give them the treat after treat after treat to make them escape that. And that is, at the end of the day, it's not going to get them out of it. It's going to make them be more of an addict. They need it because they can't function without it. That's what happens to all trauma in this planet, that we start to get into addicts for something. And we always start with like food. We're just like, oh, it's okay. And this with us as human beings as well. Food is like the number one thing that most people are addicted to. Some folks are saying that the United States of America is starting to become obese because of fast food and processed foods. No, it's becoming obese because of trauma. Because we're starting to get addicted to things. We're getting addicted to stuff that we need not to be addicted to, that we just need to sit and deal with what's going on with us, as opposed to try to run away from it. We're running away. So we're like, let me get the food to run away. It's better than alcohol. It's better than drugs. It's better than, other things, gambling. So food can't be so bad. But in reality, at the end of the day, it is just as bad because there's more of it. At least certain drugs, it's hard to get. So it makes you rethink it. At least certain drugs, you can get arrested because you have it. At least certain things, you can get cut off because they can cut you from gambling for whatever reason. But food, can't no one on the planet cut you off from food. Food is always readily available. Even homeless people out here, they eating, man. Food is so available. And once we start playing with that, then we start to get, the words I want to use there is angry. Because you're not able to you need that dose. You need that dose. You need that dose. And if you don't get that dose, you start to get fidgety. You start to get you have a micro explosions. And then the more and more that you don't get it, the more these little explosions start to get big to be a big, huge blowout. That's why what happens to a lot of folks is with your dogs. This is why you're quick I use the treats. The dog was doing pretty good. So now I got to go to balance training. Now I need the prong collar and e-collar because now the dog just had this huge explosion. And you're like, what's going on here? Because you thought that, oh, we're good now. The dog is no longer nervous, so I'm not carrying 15 pounds of treats with me anymore. I'm not giving the dog a treat every second anymore. So then the dog has to start to deal with these emotions and no longer able to run away from it. And it's going to have it's going to blow up, man. It's going to do something savage. It's going to go crazy. You never seen a dog put teeth on a dog? It's going to do it that day. You never seen a dog just pull you and yank you out? It's going to do that day. You never seen a dog just run out the front door and take off down there? You're going to see it do it that day. It's going to have an explosion go off inside because it's not learning how to deal with what's happening to it. It's always running away from it. It's running away, running away, running away. And the more that we keep making these dogs keep running away from their problems, the more and more that we're just destroying them. We're not helping them in any sort of way. We need to allow the dogs to be able to deal with what's going on with them. If they're scared of being outside, you need to put them outside and just stand and hang out. Don't pet the dog. Don't even look at the dog. Don't give the dog no treats. Just be with the dog. Be that calm reassurance that I'm fine, and the dog is going to want to match you. But what happens is you've seen your dog react to another dog, so now you're on reactive mode. So now you're like, oh my goodness. So you get nervous, and then you're like, oh, I need to do this, dude, to give these treats. And then your dog is looking at you like, woman, man, like, I don't want to be near that. Something crazy is about to happen. As opposed to just being somewhere where you know you're safe and be calm and hang out. I mean, granted, this is the part that it's hard with dog training because you're never in this perfect scenario. Stuff happens. That's why for me, I train my dogs right up front in what I would say is, someone might say, a sticky situation. Just going to a random park and just being there. Some dogs are off leash. Some dogs are on leash. Some dogs are barking like crazy because I can't control what's going to happen. But I can stand there or sit there and just be calm and just hang out. So when the dog does come up to my dog, I'm not going to be all frantic like, oh my goodness, what's happening? Because it's going to happen. I don't care how good you think you are on this planet. You are going to have a dog off leash run up to your dog. You are going to, out here, man, I got skunks that run after my stuff. You're going to have raccoon run at your stuff. You're going to have a horse, a deer, a cow. You're going to have something that's going to run up on your dog. It's going to happen. It's like guaranteed, like that is going to happen. I sit at the bench and hang out with this her, and I have squirrels coming up to my dog. Like they got death wish, man. I need to get me a hunting dog one day. But if they got a death wish, they just come up to us. They're like 5 feet from me and they're just looking at me like, And I'm like, dude, what are you doing right? Stuff is gonna happen. And we can't run from it. But that's the main thing is the non-running from it is just standing there. And if the dog freaks out for a moment, you just let them, they have to get it out. And it's the hardest thing to do because I know we want everything looking so great and so amazing. But we can't just run away from our problems. We have to deal with the problems and go headfirst into it. And again, I'm not saying put your dog and just stick it. You're gonna be on the outskirts of things. There's all kinds of places I go to with my dogs with beautiful training facility places to be able to go to. There's benches that are like so far out that you could see all the mumbo jumbo going on. There's everything like this all over this nation, all over this world in reality. And if there's not a bench, you can get you a foldable chair, put it on a backpack, get there, sit down, hang out. There's all of this because a lot of times we don't even need dogs. You don't need people. You just need to be outside and get your dog to be able to look like this. Once your dog looks like this, it's going to be so hard for her to like, let's get up and do something. Because like right there, Johnny gets up and he's looking at something and she's just like, nah, I'm okay right now. It takes so much longer. So when the dog does come up to your dog like this, it's not going to be a sticky situation because she's able to deal with it on her own. But what we're doing is getting these dogs out of being able to like recognize themselves. We're trying to mask all of their issues. And the more that we're masking these issues, the worse that these dogs just keep getting. They're just not getting, I just would love to see the success stories of these dogs that are reactive. I'm going to use that word now. So-called reactive with now I just feed them treats every second and I can take them places and that actually coming out to be something great 2 years from now. Like that's all, and not saying that I'm part of the balance part and how that, but that's the part that I just want to, that's why I don't do that because it doesn't work. That's why I don't care to be around any of that because it doesn't work. It just doesn't work. It creates more of an addict and the addict do crazy stuff when they're not getting their fix. And that crazy stuff is what leads people to go into that next part of dog training. I need a prong collar because this dog clearly is messed up. I need a knee collar because this dog clearly isn't listening to me. But at the end of the day, I'll say the difference between those two tools, me personally, I'd rather go to the knee collar than the prong collar because at least I'm not yanking and cranking and doing no crazy mess. There is a time and a place for that, but not for everything all the time. But the one thing that I'm going to say is once the dog is able to listen to you, once the dog is in tune with you, a little bit with that leash is going to get that dog to like, ooh, snap, move, like, ooh, what's going on? What's happening? Because they're calm, because they're relaxed. But we're not getting the dogs to be that. We're getting the dogs to be excited. And we're getting the dogs to be excited to be addicts. And then when the dogs are excited addicts, the dogs, you're working completely backwards to get what you're looking for out of the dog. And it's fascinating to me that we as humans are like trying to do everything we can to get everything out of stress. And this is the part with me that I know why. Because you're also traumatized yourself. You also have issues yourself that you're trying to run away from yourself. That's why for me, I've just noticed a huge difference of all my dogs across the board when I just realized the things that I was nervous and scared of, that I would just go in, I would just make it happen. And once I started doing that, the dog got better. Literally overnight. Because I'm just pushing myself out there to do what I need to do, to know what it takes, what it feels like to just deal with it, as opposed to just, let me go smoke something tonight. Let me go drink something tonight. Let me go do this and do that and do this and watch a movie or eat more food or do anything. Let me just deal with it. Let me just sit on the couch and just suck in this for a little while. And the more that I did that, the more I realized like how everything else around me started to become better. It's weird how it works that way. Because once you realize how to be able to get past it and realize actually it's okay. It's not a life or death scenario. I thought that I was going to die by sitting here thinking about some old things that happened to me in my life, but I didn't die. And that's going to translate to the dog. The dog's going to realize it's scared of that dog that is literally like 50 yards away, and it's going to say, oh my goodness, and it's going to realize like, oh, that dog didn't hurt me. And it's going to bring a level of security to the dog now. It's going to say, oh, okay, well, that's not so bad. But 10 feet, I don't know about that. Now it's going to come new again. And then 10 feet, it's going to be much better than 50 feet because it's already been through that, knowing what those feelings feel like, and not just running away from it. What we're doing is creating these dogs to run away from the problems, and what happens is it builds inside of them, and it just keeps building and building and building. And then it's gonna have to have an explosion. It has to. When you're just trying to shut it down, you're just like, you got this jar, and you're just loading stuff all in it. You're loading, and it's overpacked by now, and you're still trying to shove stuff in there. You're still trying to put stuff in there. And at some point, you're gonna put one little thing in there, and it's all just gonna, it's gonna blow up. It's gonna go crazy. It's gonna go absolutely wild. And that's the moment that if you trusted your dog, you officially at that moment don't. You officially are looking at your dog like, how do I get rid of this thing? Because I don't know what to do with this dog anymore. I thought everything I was doing was going good, but now I ran into this scenario right here. And you got success, you have luck with doing what you're doing, cool, great. But most aren't. And that's what the problems are happening right now. Most people are struggling with these dogs because we're doing stuff to create addicts because they are already traumatized. If the dog's not traumatized, the dog is pretty sound, it's nice, you know, you're gonna be able to do some pretty good stuff with that dog. I could do treat training with my Oreo here, no problem. I could treat train him, do what I need to do. We're not gonna have pretty much any issues at all because he doesn't really have any baggage behind him of anything. He's not reactive to dogs, he's not reactive to people. He's just super neutral. So it's gonna work. But to a dog that is not like that, to a dog that is already having all kinds of issues, that's the dogs that we're struggling the most with right now, trying to get them to get past these issues. We as humans can't really do too much to help them with that outside of just put them in the environment. The dog will get through it on its own. It'll get past it on its own. If you have a dog that's already pretty good, you get yourself close to that dog so that your dog can be with that dog to see that dog, to realize like things are pretty good. It's all right out here. It's okay. You don't need to add anything extra. The extra is what's creating the addiction. The addiction is what most people are seeing out of your dogs. They're pushy, they're demanding, they're rough, they're tough. They're like begging all the time. They're like booty bumping you in the house. They're smothering you. You're seeing the addiction manifest. And you're not really, this is the thing that I want to speak some things to get people to think a little bit more about this. Someone might say, oh, my dog is just dominant. No, what's going on here? What is your dog not getting that it needs right now that you created out of your dog to need that it really doesn't need, that your dog is demanding for right now? And you're going to run into a very, very, very sticky situation because you're not going to be able to keep up with those demands. You can never keep up with an addiction. It only just snowballs so it gets worse and worse and worse. It just gets worse. It gets worse, worse, worse. It doesn't just get to the point that it's like, oh, I used to, drink, I don't know how much is a lot, but just, I guess 2 big bottles. I used to just drink 2 big bottles a day, and today I woke up and that's done. I'm just done. No issues, no problems, just good to go. I heard this happen to some people. Some people get on their knees and pray the name, confess the name of Jesus Christ, and they have a transformation. That does happen sometimes. Some people have done this, and I've seen this in my life and other people's. I've seen stuff like that. So you can get me there. But in most cases, you don't just be drinking and don't care to work upon yourself and then just say, I'm gonna kick that habit and we're done with that now. That addiction is over with. No, you're gonna run into all kinds of issues. You're gonna be struggling, especially when it comes down to food. You're gonna be struggling to get yourself to get regulated, to get back into what it is that you need to do. And that's the worst thing to play with the dog, with the you, is the food. The food is so damaging, so toxic. It's so evil at the end of the day because it doesn't seem like it's all that bad. It's like, oh, it's okay. It's all right. It's just food. It'll be all right. It's just fascinating to me that I just keep seeing this, that we're just like thinking that we're trying to help. And I get it, we're trying to help. But I want to actually get people to actually get help instead of try to. I want you to do get help. I want you to get real results, not try to get some stuff, thinking and hoping and wishing and praying that things are going to happen outright, but to actually get it and understand that you, yourself, and your dog are going to go through some stress. You're going to go through stress to be able to get better. You're going to go through some troubles and tribulations to get better. You're going to go through some pain and some agony to get better. You're going to go through some times that you're just like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to make it. But you have to go through that. You have to endure and keep going and keep going and keep going. Stop trying to run away from it, but just keep going and keep going and keep going. The more that you get past the issues that you have with you, the faster you're going to see issues go away with your dog. Because your dog is going to see that confidence out of you. Your dog is going to, get down. The dog is going to see the change in you and how you're able to like get through these fears. How you used to go out walking all the time and you're like looking for dogs more than your dog's even looking for dogs. You're like priming your dog to like, oh, don't look at that. And you're doing that. You're going to start getting past things like that because you're going to start to deal with those emotions your own self. And this is the thing that I don't think a lot of people understand. Pay attention to the folks that have like the most premium looking dogs. They're some calm people. There's some, I don't want to use the word chill, but they know how to like regulate what's going on. They know how to like shut off the bad news and just live in, I'm fine right now. And that's what the dogs are, and that's what they're looking for, and that's what they need in reality. That's what's going to give you the best of the best animal, is when you're able to just go through something that is like, I'm unsure, and just be able to just, it's okay, we're going to make it. We're going to get past this. Everything's going to be all right. And that's what's going to be able to get you to have the dog that you're looking for, that you could take places and do stuff with, that you can make anything happen with. Not the dog that you have to always be on edge of, oh my goodness, I need a treat, I need a treat, I need a treat. You're just not going to keep up with that. You're not going to keep up with that. And it's only going to just keep getting worse and worse and worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. And if it's not getting worse, just that's the magic system that someone needs to just put out to show this works 2 years out. Not no 2 weeks, not no 3 months, but 2 years out. I want to know what my dog's going to be able to be like in 2 months out. 2 years out. In 2 years out, this dog is going to be nothing like she is right now. Nothing like she is right now. Absolutely nothing. I won't need no leash. I won't need no collar. I won't need no anything, and she will be with me. I don't care what squirrel will be right there in her face, yelling and screaming in her face. She will be with me in 2 years. I don't want to guarantee it, but I'm going to guarantee that based on what I'm already seeing right now with what I've been doing with her, based on what I've guaranteed to see out of my other dogs that I've already been doing this with. I'm not trying to get them to, oh, look at this treat instead of looking at that. No, you're going to deal with it. The squirrel's in your face. Deal with it, man. We're going to get through it. We're going to get past this. I know you got this. I want to. But you're going to go and feel that and go through that, and you're going to just have to just go through it. And you may have a blowout here and there, but okay. But we're learning. We're learning how to deal with that emotion, that it's not going to be so much anymore. It's not going to be so hardcore. It's not going to be so just, oh my, I have to do it. I have to do it. They're going to be able to self-regulate themselves. And it's something that, for whatever reason, it's like people don't think that the dog is capable of doing that. And yes, they are capable of doing that. They are capable of being able to see something that they're in fear of, see something that they're excited of, and be able to get through it, especially when you're a person that is there just being calm with them, being chill with them, hanging out with them, guiding them the correct way. Not guiding them, oh, you should be scared, you should be scared. Not guiding them in trying to force them to get out of it, but force them in reality to go through it. That's what we need. That's what's going to be able to give you like the long-term real-world results. Not a dog that is shut down because of the leash, not a dog that is on edge because of the treat, but a dog that is just in tune with you, listening to you, and is there with you. It's not worried, it's not nervous, it's not anxious, it's just neutral as all heck can be. This dog is starting to become so neutral, so neutral. She's like, it's taking her long to get to that excitability part. Mainly, well, I give her her needs. I let her run, I let her do what she needs to do, I let her chase, I let her dig deep with it. But when we're not doing that, she's understanding, we're hanging out now. We're hanging out. She's starting to get slower and slower and slower, more and more chill, more and more chill. And even right there, she's almost like doing a little too much for me right there. She's trying to take off and look at the dogs. The dogs are over here doing stuff, and they're all coming in here and doing some things. And I want her to just do what she just did right there. Sniff it, look at them, but you're not going over there. And she's getting neutral, very, very neutral. I know how excited she is. I can see it in her right now. She's just like, I gotta go. You see this, but she's able to just get through that on her own. On her own. I don't need to do anything. I don't need to, oh my goodness, you need treats. Oh my goodness, you're such a good girl. I don't need to do anything, because the more I do that, the more I bring her up. The more you see her, she'll start to get up. And watch, if I just keep doing this, more likely she's going to go run over there and try to go play with the dogs right now. It's what has to happen, because I start to jazz the dog up. I start to get her excited. Like, oh, let's go get in on that. Let's go do that. As opposed to just me allowing her to go through those emotions, realizing that it's okay. There's a time that we can and a time that we can't. In most cases, what most people need is not your dog acting a fool and running wild all day long. Just that little bit of time that you need them to. And that little bit of time is where you spend the most bit of your time on. You want to spend most of your days with your dog just hanging like this with you, just chilling. You got nothing on you, nothing from the smell your hands are with, nothing on you. Just hanging out with the dog, being with the dog, and just allow the dog to get through its problems, its issues that it has. And you're going to see a dog that just starts to just transform and start to get better. And it's not going to be no, everyone wants overnight, in 2 days, in 5 minutes. No, I'm talking months here to be able to be with your dog, to show your dog the correct way to be on this planet. If your dog has never been outside, you need to stand, sit, lay, sleep. You need to pitch a tent and stay outside as much as absolutely possible for your dog to be able to just get used to seeing all the sounds and all the noises and everything that's going on. If that's what you got, where your dog is nervous of just being simply outside, that's what you signed up for. This is what you're going to have to deal with from now on. It is what it is. But it's not something that's going to be there for 50 years of the dog's life. No, this is just something that the more that you spend with them doing stuff that they're nervous of, the more you're going to see results. That's the only way about it. It might take you 4 hours today to go for a walk somewhere to get them to start to get better, but the next day it'll be a half hour. The next day it'll be 10 minutes. The next day it'll be 2 minutes. The next day it'll be almost instant. And then as soon as it's almost instant, that's where we're starting to really get real world results at that moment. Because now when the dog gets like, it's able to just chill right back out real quick, real fast. It's not going to take so much. Because even like right there, she got all a little excited, but then she's quick to just, hey, we're back to just hanging out again. This is what I'm looking for out of this dog. That you could be excited, but then you could just snap out of there like, hey, we're good again now. We're fine. And it's not going to come, I just want to see it. It's not going to come through treats. It's not going to come through anything. All you're going to do is get a very, what is that word? Unreliable situation going on where you're never really sure. I want to be like 99% sure. I'm always going to have that 1%, but that's why, most places where I'm unsure of, I got a leash to put on a dog, people. Put the dang leash on the dog if you're not sure. Everyone's so nervous about, I need my dog off leash and this, and I need to be able to walk in the city and in traffic, and put a leash on the dog. Holy crap, why is that so hard for us to understand? You put your dog through so much pressure, so much agony to just know how to walk with you for a little bit of time that it's walking close enough to have a leash on it anyways. It's just, I don't know why, but just common sense to me. It's just, y'all don't live on a farm like this all day. Your dogs are just off leash, running, doing what they're doing. No, you're living in a city. Put the dog on the leash in the city. It doesn't make any sense to me on why you would want to put so much pressure on the dog to get it to do something so that, you could show off. That's the only thing that I could say about that. Because when you're walking around town, you're not running, chasing, you're not engaging in anything. You're just walking, you're just being. And that's what most time you need to spend with your dog, is just walking and just being with the dog. And stop getting your dog to be more addicted because of the trauma that it has. Get out of the addictions. Get into a place of, what do you call that? Recovery, that's the way of saying it. Get into a place of recovery so that we can actually be able to get better instead of running away from it. Thank you. You start to get cute on that word, thank you, as well. Same way that Johnny and what's homie's name? And Oreo was. She's a good girl. I know you're going to jump on me. You deep about that today. We had a good day today. But you can see, like, just having a leash on is pressure enough. It's enough pressure already. You can see a change in her, how she's like a little more animated. Because it's enough already to just simply have a leash on a dog. And that's something that I just was really paying close attention to with these animals. I don't need to put more pressure on them. It's enough. It's already like a lot, too much even, to just simply have a leash on a dog. And we don't need to go overboard with it. We just need to show the dog to just hang out. And allow the dog to be able to calm down. Because the dog needs to be able to see it as a place of safety. If it's scared of something, come close to you, be on leash, and I'm gonna keep you safe. You're too excited about something, you're thinking about running and going crazy, you don't know what to do, come close to me, put the leash on, you stay close to me, you be with me, I'm gonna keep you safe. And that's what the dogs really just need to understand. But that's, for some reason, whatever we got going on today with this new age dog training stuff, we're teaching our dogs to stay in fear. and rely on us in a way to mask their fear instead of like being with us to actually get them through their fear. I want the dog to get through the fear. I don't want them to be fearful. And that's why my big talk and do with everything with these animals is to be able to actually get them help as opposed to just giving them some pills, some drugs, some medications, some treats, some affections, some anything to just run away from it. I want to actually get the dog help, the help that it needs, the need to be able to survive on this planet just all on its own. And all on its own, yeah, granted, they're not out living free, but all on its own that it doesn't need something to be able to just see another dog. It doesn't need something to see a person. It doesn't need something to just be able to go for a walk around the block. It could just do it. It could just make it happen. That's my main goal because that's what most people are looking for out of the dog. You just want to be able to do stuff with it. You don't want to have to like all this added extra. That's the added extra is why most people are failing today because you can't keep up with it. And then even if you do keep up with it, is it actually working in the end? That's the thing that just confuses me about most of this stuff. If it was actually working, it was actually giving you a time to, I got my fearful reactive dog to stop doing that. I'm able to take him to the park with no matter what's going on, even other dogs that are barking in its face. It's just able to hang out. I don't have any treats anymore. I don't have any toys anymore. I don't have anything anymore. My dog can even be off leash next to this dog barking in its face. That's just not the results that are happening. That's not what's going down. What's going down is you need more and more and more and more and more and more. And then the more you end up, I need that prong collar. That's going to fix it because you start to get your own addiction to the training starts to kick in. So now you need more, and you can't live without the more. And that's what I want to get as many people as absolute possible out of. The mores. Just stop. What I talk about doing requires nothing but a leash and a collar. And a leash and a collar. And if you want your dog to run and pull, get you a harness. I don't really like them pulling in the collars. But to take everything away to go back to simple. But simple is, at the end of the day, the hardest thing to do because you got to deal with it. You got to sit in it. You got to just make it happen. You can't run away from it. It's there. And that's what a lot of stuff is. You're running away from it. I'm just sitting in it. I'm going to stand there for an hour. I'm going to sit there for an hour. Every day, not every day, every third day when I go on my longer run with my Dalmatian, I go to this park where there's like hundreds of squirrels around. And I just sit on a bench and I just sit there for an hour. I just sit there. I sit there in silence. I don't even play nothing on the phone. I'm not listening to a book. I just sit there and I just sit. And I allow her to see all these squirrels for that whole hour. Sometimes 2 a week, sometimes 3 days a week. She just sits and she's just staring at them all so that she could just get past it and get through it. And this past times, these squirrels, I got a little short videos of it now. These squirrels, they're literally like 5 feet from her. She's at a sit. She's like, I'm on edge, but she's holding her own self back. I'm not like giving her nothing. I'm not making her escape it. She's holding her own self back. And the more and more I keep doing that, the more and more time that I keep putting with doing stuff, that's what's going to get the success. That's what's going to get the results.